this episode, I can tell.
I'm actually not in a bad mood. I am still waking up.
All right. Shall we begin?
Yes.
What did you do now?
I put my hand on the mug warmer.
Oh. I have my mug warmer too. All right, let's go, baby.
Okay. Good morning. Very good. It's a morning. It's genuinely morning when we're doing this, folks.
Yes.
But welcome to Creative Risk, where we talk about art, entrepreneurialism, and everything in between. Welcome to my closet in the great state of North Carolina, because this is where I'm doing a show right now, and this was the best place for me to record. So, back in.
Do you want to talk about the show? How's it going?
Sure. Yeah. Actually, I do want to talk about it, and I'll tell you why.
I do.
No, it's I'm doing this production of The Addams Family, in, like I said, in North Kakalaki at Cape Fear Regional Theater. And let me tell you something, Michael James Labadia. I always mess this up. It's John. We had this conversation.
Don't worry about it.
This is a gem of a theater. I mean, look, I was a little judgy about doing The Addams Family because I was like, oh God, what's this going to be? And then I was a little judgy. I was just a bit judgy before I came. Not that I wasn't looking forward to it, but I was not expecting it to be as how do I say it? I don't want to be hyperbolic. Not since working with Molly Smith at Arena Stage have I worked at specifically a not-for-profit theater that has both strived for artistic excellence while also engaging the community that supports it in such a way before, or since, Molly. And I am so impressed with the theater. I'm so impressed with Mary Kate Burke, who runs the theater. The people are wonderful. It's been creatively challenging and very fulfilling. And I'm having a great time. And I told my agents that. They asked how it was going, and they were like, you never say that.
Well, and you opened last night.
And we opened last night, which is why I'm a little groggy this morning.
Did you go out with everybody afterwards?
But even that, so funny. So they had like their opening night party. I also now, Mike, am looking at myself in this thing because I'm wishing like I just had like a little bit of makeup as I pull myself.
A little bit of
a little bit of makeup. Dude. No, they had like a little party
like, a stapler
in their rehearsal studio, and again it was like cute. There was like I don't know, I'm really taken with this theater. I would absolutely come back to work at Cape Fear Regional Theater, and seriously, I think you would love it too, Mike. I really do. I think you'd love it.
What you're talking about sounds like Gulf Shore. I like Gulf Shore Playhouse a lot in Naples.
Oh,
yeah. It pays really well too.
Is that where you did 39 Steps?
Yeah, but they have very community engaged while also, they do good shit there. But
and how are your
doing
rehearsals
plugs? Come if you're in New York, come see when this comes out. We'll be in like a week of previews. Like our second
for
week
Arcadia.
Of previews.
To be clear, Mike's doing Arcadia Bedlam Teatro.
Yeah, Bedlam Theater in New York City. Come see it.
I also just realized you were wearing those sunglasses.
Yeah, I don't know why.
No, I like them.
I don't know, maybe, manifesting something here. But yeah, we did our first designer run yesterday.
Oh, did it go well?
I thought it went really well. The actors, I think I'm pretty explicit about this in rehearsals too. Like I hate the play. I think it's I know it's like everybody's favorite play, but it's like I fucking despise it. But when I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, we're saving the play. I'm so
hysterical.
full of myself.
Really, Tom
That's how
Stoppard.
I feel. I hate the play, and everybody knows I think it's garbage. Like I'm just like, why is this fucking idiot like? But like our production, I'm like genuinely like this is fire. Which probably means people are going to hate it because it's like...
Exactly. But I'll probably like it. I'll probably like it. You were so
I think
good.
Listen, I think it's fucking amazing. And the acting, well, like... the actors are fucking on point. You know,
Is a lot of Bedlam
Smitty's
regulars,
so
right?
Yeah. Zuzana, Elan, Smitty.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
Sean,
basically
there's a lot of people.
Bedlam's basically a repertory company now.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, go see Mike in Arcadia.
I play a math genius.
A math genius. That's why he hates it so much. It's just taking so much brain space to get there. You know, he's really trying to figure out.
Look, this is how pathetic I am. This is algebra for beginners.
But also, no, let's be clear, Mike. It's not algebra for beginners. It's called Humongous Book of Algebra for Beginners. Also, it's algebra problems we can't read. We can't. You like open the book. Yep. You're like algebra.
This is algebra. Algebra, bitch. But it's like, you know, that's me trying to do. But I've learned a lot, you know. Anyway.
Also, isn't that why we do it? Isn't that why we do all this? That's what I'm saying. Like, meaning
I do it to get laid. It's not working.
Listen, first of all, today's episode. Let's be clear what we're talking about today. Today's episode is all about self-producing, specifically waiting for nobody. Wait for no one, folks. We're going to talk about self-producing, which is the actual job of an actor, and we're going to make our case as to why. But before we do that, and before we get to comfort food performances, just a thank you to folks who've been listening up to this point. We've been loving your feedback. We're loving that. You love the podcast. We're having fun sharing some of our thoughts, unfiltered and otherwise, with y'all, because A, that's just who we are, but B, it's because we think we're talking about stuff that sort of needs to be broken down that way. So thanks for tuning in up to this point. And if you do like it, you know, your reviews do help. So
they do.
If you like it, please leave a good review and do the little star thing. And if you don't like it, leave nothing but send it to all your enemies. Okay?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, send it to them.
But let's do our comfort food performances.
Okay, great.
It's a hat on a hat because you're going to do it.
I know, but I don't know. Whatever.
You start.
You know. Okay, because it's Halloween. So I'm thinking either. Okay, I'm honestly torn between two. So I'm going to say both of them. I'm going to cheat. So, and you know, when I say comfort food performances, for me, it's exactly that. It's comfort food. It's something that I can watch whenever, anytime. It's like, please, yes, yes. You know, The Lost Boys. Have you ever seen The Lost Boys, that vampire movie from the 80s?
No.
Oh my God. It's a classic, you know, it's a fucking classic. I know you're not going to be back for Halloween, but it's so fucking good. Kiefer Sutherland.
He's great.
Jason Patric, Diane Wiest is in it. That's how you say her name, right? Was it Weist or whatever the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Wiest, yeah.
Wiest.
You know,
Wiest.
My girl Wiest did it, man. And then so she, I don't know. And then so she's fucking, and she did it right after she won the Oscar, and got nominated or whatever. So it's about, anyway, to make a very long story short, it's a mother who divorces her husband, and she has two teenage sons, and they move to like Santa Clara, it's called. It's a made up town in California. And it's kind of like there's been all these missing cases, and it turns out that there's like vampires, and it's a classic like 80s like, and it is so fucking good. It's genuinely scary, you know, but it's also hot.
Wait,
I mean,
but
it's
who's
so
the performance specifically?
It's the movie.
Oh,
I'm gonna do the whole movie.
Okay,
the whole movie. That's the thing.
We're breaking it open.
Kiefer and Jason Patric. I mean, they're so hot. I mean, people aren't that hot anymore. They're just like,
you mean like
hot.
sexy, or like they're like on
sexy,
fire?
pure sexy,
Got it.
hot. Like Jason Patric, like fucking blow me now. It's like
I don't even know who Jason Patric is.
Is this Yeah, it's Jason Patric. He's so hot in that movie. So
up.
anyway, that's a great movie. And then I'm gonna have to do one where I'm a cheat.
Okay.
Every Halloween, my go-to Halloween movie is Hellraiser. Have you ever seen Hellraiser?
I think so, but you might have a bad memory.
That's the one with you're typing at the.
I am.
script.
I'm looking to
Shut up.
see.
You're not listening to my
Hellraiser. You're talking about Hellraiser. Yes, I am. I can type in the
Pinhead.
word. Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking at him.
Pinhead. So Pinhead, that movie. I remember one time I was doing St. Joan out of town for one Halloween. We were watching it, and I was watching with a couple of the actors, and this guy, we were watching it, and we were eating Domino's. We each had a pizza. It was like, I don't know. We were just one of those. And, a lot of good memories around that movie. But, my buddy Ted, who was in the show, he said, this is so ripe.
Ripe?
And that's exactly what that movie is, ripe. When you watch it, you'll know what I mean. It's very Lynchian because the acting is not great, but it's also amazing. You know what I mean? It's bad acting, but it's good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Of
And
course.
it's just a phenomenal. It's that movie I could watch over and over again.
Well,
Hellraiser.
I was gonna go with a different comfort food performance, but because you said you sort of had like a horror theme, I think I'm gonna go with someone else. And this is very random, but in Hocus Pocus, which I love, who doesn't?
Do.
You don't like Hocus Pocus?
I don't know. I like Hocus Pocus a lot.
There's an actress who plays the teacher. Her name's Kathleen Freeman. She's
Wow,
an old school actor. She plays like the dowdy. She's like dressed as the witch, and she's in the classroom when he's first kind of. You know what I'm talking about? It's actually
I have a vague memory.
It's a very good performance. It's very small. No, it's not Miss Bet, right? No, it's not Kathy Najimy. It's this random character actress who worked a ton, like 40s, 50s, 60s. That was like her, golden era.
Uh-huh.
And then she made this movie, of course, in the early 90s. And I think she's just great. She's great. Maybe I'm just like my simpatico relationship with other
What's her name?
parts. Kathleen Freeman. She kind of looks like
Freeman.
when she was younger, she kind of looked like Carol Burnett. She's really good. So Kathleen, she's
that
dead now.
That movie's great.
She's dead now.
I mean, she's dead. It's like she killed her whole family. I don't know why that's funny.
And I also
It's
love
like
her because she had a triple homicide when she murdered her whole family.
Kathy Freeman murder suicide her whhole family. I don't know why that's so funny. It's just, the actress, and that's like so clickbaity. That's something you would see like. Wait, did you just take your phone off of the stand?
No, I took my coffee off of my mug.
That was you got the blur on. That's why.
Oh yeah, because we also were recording. Oh my god! Every time I look, I'm like, I think I probably still have makeup on my face.
Why do you think I'm wearing glasses? Anyway,
I know.
Okay, Kathy Najimy, Kathleen Freeman.
No Kathy Najimy. Although I do love her.
I love Kathy Najimy.
I know, but I'm giving Kathleen Freeman her bit part props in this comfort food performance segment.
Well, I had such a crush on like the little girl in that movie, like the sister.
child?
When I was a kid, yeah, I came out. Unlike you, when it came out, I wasn't 30. You know what I mean?
Okay, I don't mind you saying the older daughter, but that little girl. But I guess I see she's kind of mature.
When I was a kid, I was like, oh my god, like she's beautiful.
I don't know if I was even thinking about that when I was a kid. I'm hot in here. I'm hot.
I was,
in this closet.
unfortunately.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
There we go. Sweating
back
again.
in the closet.
We start
back
talking.
in the closet with you.
We start talking. I'm sweating. Okay, so let's get into today's topic. 20 minutes into the podcast.
No, we're not.
My timer says 15 minutes. So
Jesus Christ.
let's start. Okay, by first talking about self-producing today and waiting for no one. And I think. I think a good place to start here is by talking about. I really do want to talk. I want to hear what self-producing is. I want to hear what your definition is and my definition is, even how basic as it is. We all kind of get the basic gist. But I want to start with that. And then I want to talk about why it is the singular most important tool. The most important tool we have in our arsenal as actors. And the case we're going to try to make in today's episode, that it is the real job of an actor, is to self-produce.
I agree. So what does self-producing mean to me? Is that the question?
Yeah, what is it? What is self-producing?
Oh gosh, the reason why I want to hold space for this and just take pause is because I go back and forth, right? It's like self-producing obviously is, it's taking a creative project from, imaginary land into reality. I mean, that's sort of how I view it. It's shepherding a project, whether that project is, and kind of what gives me pause is like whether that project is a feature, a play, a reading, a event, a screening series, a whatever, or a company, or something that's not just one-off, something that I would argue that self-producing is also taking a theater company or a production company, something that's longer term, and taking that thing from an idea into reality.
Yeah.
And it's and I would argue that it is a something that is creatively focused. Probably that's a horrific definition, but when that's not like the textbook definition we give. But to me, that's what self-producing is.
I think no, I don't think we need a textbook definition, because I'll tell you, for me, and I'll do a bit of a preamble to answer it myself. And it really goes back to like the early days of artist strategy in a lot of ways, and what I still think is a through line in a lot of what we talk about today. And essentially, it's that I never want someone to dictate when I get to be creative. Period, point blank,
right.
End of story. So for me, at its core, while it does lots of good shit that we're going to talk about, self-producing really represents a version of my own creative freedom where no one else gets to say, and now you get to be creative, which I would argue, once we start finding a flow in this business or not finding a flow in this business, how many artists do we know that sit around and twiddle their thumbs waiting for casting, someone to be like, okay, now you get to do it?
I know it hurts me. It hurts me to think about. Well, the reason why it hurts me is because, and when we say wait for no one, is I'm even thinking about this is hitting very close to home for me because we've started and gone on a few. We've stopped and started on a few different things. Together. I would argue individually, and we'll get into this. And yeah, it's like, the reason why I'm pausing is because really there's always something, because it's such an investment. And because especially when you bring other people on board, you're waiting for other people's approval. You're waiting for other people to sort of be the ones to help you carry the load. And I would argue that really what self-producing is and people are going to vehemently disagree with me, I think it's a solitary activity. I think that even if you have a team, at the end of the day, when you spearhead a project from the beginning, you are alone. I really believe that. I think very rarely is responsibility truly shared, because I just don't think it is.
Well,
I
hear that, but I'll say, because let's take you and I as an example, because we have worked on a few random things here and there together, and I would argue that you and I have enough trust between us where when we work on something, we are able to work truly in a collaboration. And I think it's part of what, you and I, we have our ups and downs, but we also can meet each other and play to each other's strengths and weaknesses. And I say this because I think, and we'll talk more about this when we talk about why it's difficult, because I really think I want to focus on why it's so good right now, but
let's focus on the negatives right now.
Blue ball this point, because I think finding collaborators where it doesn't feel that way is half the freaking battle.
No. Yeah, let's talk about per your point. Per your point, yes. It's separate from like it helping you do your, helping you. We'll talk about ways in which it'll help you strategically reach certain goals. But yes, we say we want to be artists, right? We say we want to create. We say we're creative beings, and yet, are we creating? Are we making art? And self-producing is truly, if we really value radical ownership in our careers, self-producing is the way that we take radical ownership. But let's talk about, how it can shift. If you are experiencing any lack in your career, right? So there's always a lack in our career, right? It's, I wish I could go from the co-star to the guest star. I wish I could go from the ensemble track in Broadway shows I'm doing to a principal. I wish I could even just get started and get to know people. I wish that I could show people, whatever it may be. Any lack in your career, self-producing has the power to fill that lack.
Let me reframe that too. Any lack or any desire to lift up another element.
Yes,
because it
absolutely.
really has the ability to touch absolutely everything. And we're going to give some examples.
Goddamn.
Before we do, I do just have to say, Mike, I see in your frame there's that can, right? And so the other day, I go to I'm in North Carolina, and I go to 7-Eleven. And I'm like, hi, you know me. Hello, good day.
Hey, hello, howdy, yeehaw.
How do you? And I say, do you have any seltzer water? And the woman says, we have liquid death. And I said, no, seltzer water. And she goes, it is water. And I said, ma'am, I'm not drinking anything called liquid death. And I didn't even mean for it to sound so like whatever it sounded like. And she just looks at me and she goes, well, then no, we don't have any seltzer water. Isn't that hilarious? But also, what the hell is liquid death for?
It's just seltzer water.
That's a bad name. I don't liquid death.
Well, obviously it's not a bad name because we're talking about. You're talking about it
Blows
like
up
a lot right now.
Make it famous.
It is. It is blown. It is famous. What are you talking about?
But now that I'm talking about it, it's gonna be really famous.
Yeah, exactly. No, but the reason why I like liquid death is because it's hard to get seltzer in a big can like this. That's why I like it.
Well, listen, this is a big military community here in Fayetteville, so I'm sure you and the military bros drink liquid death.
That's me. Well, you know me. I'm an elite soldier.
I go to Sprouts to get my Polar Premium Seltzer.
See, but the
lime.
bottle is. But the bottle, fuck that, dude. The can is.
I always
where
picture
it's at.
rats
Always.
crawling across the top of cans, pooping on them. So I'm not a big fan of cans. At least the cap I can twist off, and I know my lips are going on something clean.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry to distract you. This other liquid death.
Rats pooping. That's why they give you a straw at the bodega.
So okay,
Anyway.
so let's talk about all the ways self-producing can lift up your creative business as an actor. Probably starting with one of the most important, marketing. In a very basic sense, you say you act, you say you're good. Show us.
I know.
Show us.
It's and when we talk about specifically, showing somebody the goods, it's like, and this also relates to craft improvement. People say people don't see me. They don't, when we talked about type last week and how people sometimes feel like they're not given, people don't really see what their unique gifts are, their unique strengths are. If only people, why do everybody, the bitching? It's like, I don't want to, why does everybody want to cast me as, and whatever? It's like, I want to do avant-garde puppet shows where I want people to see me as an edge. I don't know what the fuck.
Yes.
Then do it.
Do it.
Then you have to do it. If you're upset that people don't get you or get what your unique gifts are, that's your problem. That's your fucking fault. And self-producing is the best way for you to show and train. And to me, it's a way to train people. You train them to see what your unique gifts are. So showing the goods. But here's the other thing. My fucking back, dude. It's bad. I don't know. God, I hate getting old.
Don't even talk to me about it. My knees. I'm rubbing my knees. like in between scenes, like, I'm so sore.
That's terrible. You know, I always say, you know, when people want their big break, right? And this is also kind of related to professional growth, but you know, people, I want my big break. And we all can kind of imagine, I want to be the lead in this indie feature that goes to Sundance, or, like if I could get this kind of part. Create your showcase. Give yourself a showcase.
Period.
To show what you do. Back build that. And we'll talk about that too more with professional growth. You know, I really think that this is the best way self-producing is to level up and show people what you have to offer. If you are somebody who is, you know, can't get, it's always what I say to clients who are booking tons of co-stars, but they want to get into guest star land. I always say the number one thing you got to focus on is self-producing. That's the number one thing you have to focus on, because you have to give yourself an opportunity.
Right.
To be a bigger role. You have to give yourself an opportunity to step into, can you carry a movie? Can you carry a web series? Can you carry a play? You know, if I see it's all co-star credits on your fucking resume, I don't know if you can carry a show.
Well, and again, wait for no one. You know, hearing you say this,
sure.
It's like wait for no one. Why? Okay, you can cultivate casting, you can get great reps all you want, and then what? Sit, twiddle your thumbs until the appointments just come supposedly pouring in. I also want to say, see, this is a can of worms. It hits nearly every other piece. Also, from a marketing standpoint, you know, one of the things that we believe is that, and Mike, I think you really brought this point up when we were sort of really cracking open marketing for actors in particular. We were talking about, well, how do actors get discovered, right? How do they get discovered? And how they get discovered is through a project. I mean, that's how actors, I know that person. I know Kathleen Freeman from Hocus Pocus, you know, whatever the hell it is. Or your girlfriend, the little girl at the beginning of the, you know, in
Jesus
Hocus
Christ.
Pocus. I don't do that too much. But, you know, one of the ways that we can control that and to develop our own base is by having our own self-produced project that even allows for us to do the very thing we're talking about.
When people are marketing, I mean, you can't market. We talk about this a lot with our clients. You can't market just being an actor. You can't market that.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and to be clear, it's not that, you're an actor, potter, writer, all that shit per se. It's that what you're not marketing is, I'm an actor, sad face, happy face, literally the logo of our podcast. You know what I'm saying, though? Like, it can't be.
Yeah, but ours is fun. But you can't market.
Yeah.
You can't just market being like, hey, it's like, when did you ever discover an actor just because they were, hot? It's like, there's an actor on the scene, and it's like, no, it's always through a project.
Yep.
This person just starred in this breakout performance in this movie, or so and so is in this. You can't market yourself as an actor without being in projects. And so obviously, you know, self-producing is as opposed to what you're talking about, as opposed to waiting for those projects to come. You can actually, that's how you're going to get exposure, right? Is by marketing a project aggressively and whatever angle you have within
take
it.
Rachel Sennett. You know, Rachel Sennett, who sort of broke out onto the scene with Shiva Baby. And we talk about Rachel Sennett a lot because Rachel Sennett's an interesting example of a really great artist, someone who's really broken through in a lot of big ways and is telling a really dynamic story. I would argue part of that story isn't just about, Rachel Sennett, the good actor. Part of it is that when you create your own work, when you Issa Rae, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, that shit,
Right.
You are positioning yourself in a very different way in this industry because you now become a provider of opportunity. We'll talk more about that in terms of relationship building. But the story that it tells from a power
Absolutely.
standpoint, quote unquote, is remarkable. We feel it. We see it when people's think about it, folks. Your colleagues who are out there making stuff and call you up sometimes and say, want to do this. How much more do you lift them up? because you're like, oh, they're the real freaking deal. They're doing the thing. I better continue to run alongside them. You know what I mean?
And I want to offer, because Rachel's a good example, because Rachel was blowing up before Shiva Baby, but not as an actor, right? That's the difference. Is she did have a following, but she wasn't. People didn't see her as an actor. She was a comedian, and that is very different. It was through the film, though. What you're right about, Shiva Baby was a breakout. That was a breakout. And that got a lot of marketing. The marketing team behind that did a fucking phenomenal job. And it's like, that's really what broke her. And that was the transition from just being a personality,
Sure.
which is what she was,
Sure.
into a proper actor.
Sure.
And, you cannot market yourself. And let's talk about this too. You need to, when it comes to content, we need to be seeing on socials. If, you do have an actor newsletter, which I hope, is not a lame, if you do, whatever it is, we need to see you working.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing we need to see from an actor's marketing.
Truly.
We need to see that they're working and that they're in the community.
It tells the story that you're desired, that your
Exactly.
work has value. It's
so when you are self-producing, you are able to take the materials, from that, whether it's behind the scenes, whether it's clips, and hopefully any sort of press or, that you're bringing up for yourself, or, interviews, whatever it may be around the marketing of the project. And you're able to position that and say, hey, I work, so that's really, and the last thing I want to say about marketing, and this is kind of related to showing the goods, is if you ever want to rebrand or pivot, let's say you ever want to be like, hey, I want to get out of MT and, want to be seen more as a serious film actor, or I really want to transition into, I get this a lot with actors who are very young looking, who want to sort of start to be considered for more dynamic sort of adult roles. That self-producing is how you push that story out there, right? It's how you tell the story about what you do. You know
what you're bringing up, Mike? And this is why I'm glad this episode's called Wait for No One, because we often seek outside validation to do that, right? Okay, maybe once someone finally gives me that opportunity, then I will feel not only more able, we sort of get confidence from other people. That's just not going to work. What business, that's what makes entrepreneurs, they dream big, they have a vision. That's why I give Elizabeth Theranos, right? Elizabeth Holmes? Who's Elizabeth Holmes?
Elizabeth, the one who's
is it Theranos or Holmes? Person? Who's Elizabeth Holmes? Elizabeth Holmes. That's an.
Sherlock's
her name's
daughter.
Elizabeth Holmes. So who's Elizabeth Theranos, or is that the name of the business?
Theranos is the name of her company.
Okay. Anyway, well, good. So you know who I'm talking about. I give her a lot of credit because
I know she's like your favorite person. You love her. She killed like 20 people.
Her and Kathleen Freeman.
Yeah, exactly.
No, exactly. But you dream big. I don't love Elizabeth Holmes. She mishandled it, but you dream big. You think you have a vision.
I want to get that should be merch. Is like her face and it says like boss bitch on it.
Elizabeth Holmes.
That's good fucking merch. If you would buy that, please comment on it. Comment on whatever.
We'll sell. That's our merch. We would have some crazy shit merch. I like that. We should
her face and then it says boss bitch. That's fucking good.
And we should get, our merch will be Elizabeth Holmes, boss bitch, and it'll also be a tracksuit. We'll also have a tracksuit to represent
yeah,
you.
exactly. With Elizabeth Freeman, on
the back of it, I killed my family. Okay, so now let's talk about professional growth, though. So just because I think it's a term that not everyone's going to know, we break our concepts down into several pieces, some of which are obvious, marketing, self-producing, and some of which are less obvious. Professional growth, we just gave a name that sort of describes people's primary goals. right? And they're mile markers
Right.
along the way. So it's a tenet that we're considering as part of this conversation today about self-producing. And some of the pieces that self-producing can specifically lift up can be many, inclusive of, and actually I'm going to start with a story about someone I'm working with now. I won't say who by name, but there's someone in the show who's great, Mike. Actually, several people who are great in this show that I'm doing. But one in particular, this girl, just kooky, and great voice. And I was talking to her about a lot of things. She doesn't have reps right now, and she's just sort of out here like hustling herself. She did get this gig herself, but she made a comment that was like, "Oh, I can't wait for the Miss Congeniality musical." And I said, "Oh, they're doing a Miss Congeniality musical?" And she goes, "Oh, I don't know, but one day, like, I can't wait to be that part."
Right.
And I said to her, "Well, what do you mean? Go do it. Who should write it? What's the director you're trying to get to know? Like, move, you know?" And because I would argue, her potentially taking that show, using that as a centerpiece strategy for her career to share her story, build relationships, all that stuff, would be time better spent than at the EPA for the Muni's production of Thoroughly Modern Millie, or
Right.
"Dear casting person DDD, here's my reel."
No
if she was
question.
out there
God damn it.
EPing this damn thing, that's a fucking career strategy. So just
Well,
to
you
kick
know-
that idea off, you know?
Well, I'll even say, you know, and what you're talking about is a mindset shift more than anything. You know, one that always blows people's minds when we're talking. It's like, you know, it's like, I want to be a series regular in 5 years. Okay, so, you know, we have a casting cultivation plan. We have a, you know, whatever. But, okay, what TV show are you producing?
There you go.
You know, that is, and people are always like, what the fuck are you talking about? And it's like, people can't, and what you're talking about is a complete mindset shift, because look, 5 years is a lot of time, and you could get a series order in 5 years. And by the way, if somebody's out there listening, how would you do that? Well, do you try and get IP that's interesting? And I'm not saying you have to write it. Do you potentially cultivate writers? You know, commission an outline and then get somebody who's a writer's assistant on a show that you like, or whatever. Do you cultivate them and then they get emotionally invested? Then you guys pitch it together. You know, I know an actor who we both know. Who is, yeah, he has a, you know, right before the writer's strike, and now it's picking up talks again, but he's a lead of a television show, and this guy, he's worked, but not like really, he's not like a big, but he has a television show coming to play, and I want to talk, huh?
Who is this?
I'll bleep it out.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to say how that came about. Can I tell you how that came about? That came about because his best friend is somebody, you know, who's blowing up.
Right.
And they had been developing a script together and a concept for a television show for years, and she started to blow up, and then now they're pitching, and because she's blowing up, CAA or whatever is like, hey, you know, what do you have? You're hot. What projects do you have? They're not writing the series. They're interviewing showrunners right now. And so I say this, why am I talking about this? I'm saying that it's hard for people, per your point about the miscongeniality thing, it's hard to get into that mindset of like, oh, I want to be in a television show, I need to make it. I want to be in a Broadway musical, I can develop it. But that is the mindset that we need to start. Again, radical ownership, wait for no one. How are you taking control? Yes, play the game, but per your point, even if you don't, even if the series does not go in 5 years, you trying to get that series up and running is probably going to do 1,000 times I mean, Jesus,
Right.
it's gonna do so much more for your career than fucking
well,
like
exactly.
going to pay to plays, doing fucking
Well, this
Who
is
cares?
this is the point about lifting up all these other elements, and we're going to talk next. We're going to talk about all about why self-producing is hard, including hitting all of those points. The other thing I want to say, though, from a professional growth standpoint, Mike, in terms of for developmental actors, is this: a lot of times, it's funny. A lot of times, people think that we work with like really young people. We don't. A lot of people don't come to work with us who are young because they're still caught in the luck and the fantasy thing, which I get. I totally get it. But those who lack a lot of experience, they sort of also lack a clarity of goals. So a lot of times those 5-year goals
That's a
are
good point.
Broadway series regular, indie darling, Sundance hit.
I'll do anything. I just want to perform.
Exactly. Self-producing has the ability to help you clarify your own damn goals. Right? What do I want to be doing? And so you can develop a point of view and a strategy. But again, you could sit around for the next 14 years waiting for things to sort of get pieced together, or you can do it right now, right? So clarity of goals.
And when you say specifically, you may go, if you've never been on a film set before, you may go, oh, if you've never written a script before, you may go, oh, I don't actually want to do that. It's like
Exactly.
you can go, oh, I actually don't want to do any of that shit that I thought I wanted to do. Oh, please.
Well, I was just going to say, I want to underline, and this has been a big realization for me over the past few months, and people who've been working with me know that I've been harping on this, and you and I have been talking about it. Just that when we think actual strategy, what is it really going to take? A big swing as part of your self-produced project. Not just, okay, well then I'll produce a short film starring my Nana and my kitty cat Lulu, and it's going to be about me going to get some yummy cream ice cream and then come home and we watch Family Double Dare. No. Okay, great. So let's bring Ellen Burstyn back. We love her. Let's try to, but seriously, what's the big swing that's going to really, because that big swing, by the way, can mean so many things. Again, relationships, marketing, but this to me is such a primary point that I want to underline, that if you are exactly what you're saying, if things are at a standstill, they're going slow, how can you shake it the fuck up with something big that's going to move you and your entire career along?
Well, let me say, I say this a lot. I did a exercise, if you can believe me exercising. No, this was an exercise where I went. I read maybe 50 recently signed. So what do I mean by that? So I only focused on UTA, WME, CAA. Who recently signed with those offices? And why am I referencing that? Because those are people who have, I think signing with one of those offices should be a goal everybody has. Why? Because those, we talk about this, we should do a whole episode about the power of these agencies, but, they make stars. That's their job. They make stars. So who are they signing, right? It's one of 3 types of people, right? One is a breakout role. So by a breakout role, I mean somebody just graduated from Juilliard and they're the series lead of this show. Right, so they book a lead on a television show right out of school, or mainly young people. You're not seeing older people get those kind of breakouts. The other thing that you see is people who get poached, from other offices, who have been with other offices for a while. But the third thing you see that I see consistently is true is somebody who's starred in, wrote and directed a feature that was like an indie darling at Sundance. Yep. Why? Because they have multiple. Because that's an asset. Somebody who does a big swing and creates a big opportunity like that. Or they have, and a lot of times it's people who have a podcast. They have a podcast they produce, a social media presence, and they just produced X, 5 shorts, that blah, 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 blah. Why? Because that's somebody who is showing that they know how to, they're an asset. Think about it. I have somebody who's a true creator here. They're not just a fucking actor. They're going to create opportunities.
Yep.
They're going to move. If I'm an agent looking to find somebody who's going to make me money at the top, that's who I'm focusing on, which again, I'm going to make a side point here, which is so stupid how there are people, old school boutique agents who don't like self-producers or don't like multi-hyphenates. And that's why they're fucking low-tier agents. They're low-tier agents because, people at the top, they want that. Because they want somebody who's going to make them a lot of fucking money.
Yes.
And who's going to... But how does this relate to the big swing? This relates to the big swing thing that you're talking about because... what's the big break? Make your big break. Make your big break. And per your point, we're going to talk about this.
Wait for no one. Wait for no one.
And back engineer it. So, okay, do you try and get a name in it? Do you try and get, think about, this is the big problem because, look, it is risky to make this shit, obviously, to make a self-produced project. But you have to be realistic. If it's you and all your friends, there is a high likelihood that nobody's going to ever fucking see it. And that's it.
Well,
you have to be smart.
It's a great segue also into another major element of what self-producing lifts up, which is community cultivation or your ability to build relationships in this industry. Why? Because hear this loud and clear or loud and proud or whatever the kids say.
Oh, God, no.
There is no better way to cultivate relationships in this industry than providing creative opportunities.
Period.
Think about when someone reaches out to you and says, hey, I was thinking about you for this thing. Would love for you to read it or be a part of it, whatever it is. There is no higher compliment. And this is the number one way you want to build. And by the way, let's be really clear. This is not just other actors, directors, writers, producers, casting directors.
Casting.
You can build relationships by saying, I respect you as an artist and would like for you to work on this thing that I am creating. But, it's a huge relationship builder. And for those people, because we know how difficult it is for folks to feel like they have a reason to reach out to folks, this is such a good excuse, right? And kind of per our point about the big swing, self-producing is what will potentially give you access to higher tier folks. I tell the story about you when during the pandemic, when you were doing you had a different end goal as to why you were engaging these people, but you just asked a few big names in the New York scene to do this reading with you. They all said yes. And they didn't know who you were. They simply said, okay. And look, it's even if that's the beginning of what is going to be a long, beautiful relationship, potentially, it is one of the most important ways you can have an entry point into forging that relationship.
It gives a simple, just to summarize what you're saying, very well said. It's an excuse to reach out to people. We're always looking. Listen, you need to be engaging people in the business, and there's no better excuse than, hey, I want to collaborate with you on a project. And again, these things don't have to be fucking feature films or big off. They can be little readings. They don't have to be. It doesn't have to be a big deal. So And it's a way to access higher tier individuals if we're looking for reasons to. And one piece of advice I always give: if you're trying to access a higher tier individual, yes, Kelsey Grammer. Okay, let's just, because we talked about him last episode. I love Kelsey Grammer. Listen, if I really would love to work with Kelsey Grammer one day, there is no better. Don't you think? Whoever his agent is. I don't know, the new Frasier, it's not great. Everybody wants a TV show. Everybody wants a showcase, especially somebody like him. Like, he's not like Leo DiCaprio, right? He's like, everybody wants a fucking showcase, right? So if I can give the role of a lifetime to Kelsey Grammer, if I can give a script to Kelsey Grammer, that's a role of a lifetime for him. And I'm in it. That is, he has an apparatus behind him that is doing everything in its power to give him opportunities. So if I can give Kelsey Grammer an Oscar, Kelsey, this is going to be your Oscar right here. This is your fucking Oscar-winning performance right here. This movie. If I can give him that, then I've given him the world. I just want to be clear about that.
What I love about I just added something to this next section we're going to talk about, and about why self-producing's hard, and I just put, but who am I? But I don't want to talk about that just yet, because what I want to focus on is what I love about what you're saying is we all need a sense of that blind confidence in moving forward to go, yeah, I could come up with a project that would be exciting enough for someone as great as Kelsey Grammer. Absolutely. And for people who are going, again, we'll get to why is it hard, but if you're going, but how could I, what are you talking about? I mean, it's insanity, because of course you're absolutely right. If you really were interested in doing that, I 100% believe that there is a world where you could craft a project all around Kelsey Grammer that would be interesting and exciting.
Everybody's looking for their next thing.
Absolutely.
It's like
everybody.
Look at Brendan Fraser. How much do you think Brendan Fraser did The Whale for? Like, in reality, like, he probably did it for no fucking money, I would imagine.
Sure.
I don't think he did it for a lot of money. It's like,
know.
If you can give if you're trying to access a higher tier individual. Now, look, I'm not talking about people who are high in demand. But if you're like, they're looking for it. No. They're looking for something that is going to, anyway, yes, you get it.
So let's talk about how self-producing supports financials, right? Because this can feel odd. Man. Doesn't it cost me money? Well, two things. Number one, a big belief of ours is that we put ourselves in the line of fire to develop better habits. And so, if you are someone who is, for example, financially irresponsible or lacking some sort of system, self-producing allows for you to develop better planning habits, but the better ability to manage funds. It seems like a little no-brainer, but you know what? A lot of times, because this also goes along with leadership skills, which we'll talk about in a second. Like, you put yourself in a position to just better yourself, to grow your perspective, and financials is very much a part of that. To say nothing of the fact that it does have the possibility to be future income streams, depending on what the project is. Why do we think, per your point, all of these other actors who are becoming EPs on projects themselves? It's not just for creative control. A smart, ever-growing creative artist is looking to continue to take in profits from what they're creating as well, whether that's by way of their name being attached and then them trying to get on, a bigger slice of the pie overall, or when it comes to self-producing, if they're really miscongeniality. Actually, I'll take and the reason why I use miscongeniality, and I'll use me as an example. As you know, there is a show that I have been helping to develop since 2011, so nearly 13 years, 12 years, 13 years. And, it's been years in the making. We did it at a fringe festival, but I've always seen the value of it. Blah, 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 blah. Cut to there's now a lead producer attached. And one of the first things I said to the core team now was, well, I want a co-producer credit for the work that I've done for the past decade, so that when it gets to Broadway, which, is looking more and more likely every week, that I see that financial return for myself.
That's the whole and what you're bringing up too is the importance of, you need to be producing a ton of shit. If that was all you were doing was that project, exactly. I mean, I'd be like, dude, what the fuck? But, this was one of many things, and per your point, what's smart, yes. And if that goes to Broadway, you may not make, and if it is successful, I just want to be clear. We know people, don't we? You know people who are getting checks Every month they're getting checks.
I think about you know who John Cariani is, right? Do you know who he is?
No.
He's a great actor. And he's a friend of mine. He was in the band's Visit, Something Rotten. He wrote Almost Maine, the play.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And Almost Maine has made him so much money. And
well, you know people who came on with MJ, the musical.
That's right. I should have invested in that.
And you got it's like, a couple $1,000, and they're getting, and just to be clear, that's passive income.
Right.
They are making
right.
passive. Now look, obviously that's not every project. A lot of projects don't make money, but but even if you talk about Patreon, right? If you're able to even monetize it yourself through behind a paywall, I mean, yes, there is.
Okay, so there's the financial return from creative projects, and then what you're saying, absolutely. That's what Patreon is, an amazing platform now. You could self-produce, provide value to your base, and see a monthly return. Or
YouTube.
Per my point about Cariani, licensing. There are ways for you to consider what these projects do. And I'll just share personally, when I self-produce now, I do always ask myself, how far can I take this? Not even assuming it's going to always reach that level per se, but because, I forget the point. When you were talking about the offices, CAA, UTA, APA, etc. For me, it's the value of having, shoot for the moon, land among the stars. It's direction. Let me see how far I can take it, because you know what? It's going to make it damn good if I can.
And the last thing I'll say about making money, too, is you ran a theater company. That was self-producing.
Yeah.
You were making a salary from that.
Absolutely.
You had a salary, and
yeah.
So it's not just so yes, self-produce. And by the way, I think per your point, we should always be aiming to make money from our self-produced projects in some fashion. Maybe not like the beginning ones to but we should be using shorts. Very difficult to make money from shorts, or but use them to gear up towards bigger projects where you can make money, because when you think about how far you can take something, it's going to be better. Always.
Well, what I like about also the reason why I always like the consideration of how can I make money off of this is that means that there's an audience for it. And you're getting it off of yourself. Great and you're point. Considering, how this could shape itself.
Look, and you're thinking through marketing. You're thinking
exactly.
Through, it's not just, okay, I made it.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, you have to think about.
Which is what most people do.
You have to think about,
yes.
Okay, how is it reaching people? How is it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's blow through these other ones here.
Method, which is, again, we sort of think of as sort of like the workflow, the infrastructure pieces of your business, probably the most important piece that we'll likely talk about in many future episodes. But self-producing allows you to develop leadership skills, communication skills, a sense of discipline, the ability to organize, representation. Right. If you do not have representation, right, and you're looking to get new representation, yes, again, you can wait for those credits to come in, or you can not only create an opportunity that will sort of push you forward by way of simply having work that you can share and show, or relationships you can speak to, or when you're taking these meetings, folks, when you're sitting down and well, tell me about what do you got going on? What they don't want to hear is, well, not much. I've just been, needed to get a rep so I can get out the door.
Well, the example we always use, I'm going to use two things really quick. The example we always use is we had a client who was not very keen on self-producing. They had a couple people vouch to, not even a fantastic agent. And what did this person say? This person said, hey, I'm sure you're great. I trust all the people.
Yeah.
But I need to see you in something.
Yeah.
If you are doing something, and I think they literally said something like, if you decide to put something up, they said something like that.
I'm seeing.
They literally told them, self-produce something so I can come see you work. I want to use an example for, another example, because it is interesting to sort of pull from, when I think about even people.
I have it.
I
just want to read this exact sentence because I think this is.
Yeah, read it. Go ahead.
So the bolder parts that said, we've read through your email several times and all agree you seem very interesting, and of course we adore blank and trust his high opinion of you. However, we feel uncomfortable doing so, signing this person, until we have seen you perform. And then later in the email, they give the directive. They say, if you have the opportunity to create some professional film work and would like to send that, feel free to do so as well. They are telling this person, go make shit and bring it back, and then we'll take a look. Literally.
And literally. And, when I think about people who want to, this thought's just not well formulated, but I think it's worth saying is that you want to sign with like a Gersh or like a fuck. It's like, look at the filmmakers who sign with people like that. And what's interesting, and that's, we have a lot to learn from filmmakers. I even
agree.
if you don't want to do film, it's like filmmakers literally, filmmakers have to make their own shit.
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting? I just want to say one thing here. Isn't it interesting how, filmmakers, that's the job, is they have to self-produce, and it's understood. You need to self-produce and make work. And a lot of times these people are snatched up because these projects, they get some success or whatever. They have a plan behind them. They marketing, whatever. And then Gersh will sign somebody for filmmaking, or WME will sign somebody for filmmaking. If I'm an actor who has any desire to do movies, and I would even argue TV as well, I would venture to say, and people are probably going to greatly disagree with me on this, that probably the best thing you can do is do a hybrid of do like a Miranda July, do an Issa Rae, make a fucking make
Mike,
as much
you are
underlining
you are underlining the point of that we were making this episode. It is our job as the actor.
And I would argue, Pete, this is where I think people disagree. Direct, write them. It's risky, but that's how people get fucking Jim Cummings, or fucking Miranda July, fucking Issa Rae. It's like these people wrote. It's not enough to just act in these, especially for film stuff. I don't think it's enough to just act. I think you also have to at least write it and possibly direct it.
I know what you're saying. No,
it's a story. It's a story.
The final piece that really lifts up. I knew. Remember when we were crafting this? I was like, this is going to be a long one. This is so many.
How long is it?
We're already an hour in. We still got to get through all other shit. We just talk about that for 10 minutes, never get to the other. Anyway, the final piece is craft, of course, and this is a big one because this kind of goes back to waiting for no one to tell you can be creative. But look, you want to improve your skills, kind of what you're saying, Mike. Oh, I want to edit. I want to, or not even skills outside of acting. I want to work on everything from emotional prep to the experience of breaking down a feature-length script to dialects. I don't care what the hell it is. You want to do it? Do it. And self-producing could be the place that challenges you in a low-stakes environment. Low stakes meaning, who are you going to impress? Yourself? An experience is the thing that's going to let you sharpen and better understand your craft, especially for young artists. You think you know everything. We think we know everything. I'm sure in 30 years, we're going to be like, remember those assholes who just sat there and thought they know everything? We always think we know everything. But really, it's through the doing that we learn, and it's the easiest way to give yourself that opportunity.
And I would argue the only thing I'll push back on with you is the low stakes thing. I think the whole point of a benefit of self-producing is it is high stakes.
Sure.
That's the benefit.
You know what I'm saying? Outside eye.
Yeah. Because I would argue that, the number one thing people say when they self-produce and they act in something is, oh, I'm going to be producing and acting and I won't be able to. And it's like, well, listen, I would argue how many people have the fucking look. How many people can be Daniel Day-Lewis or Leo DiCaprio where it's like, I live in a cabin and all I do is act.
Yeah.
Nobody has that luxury. I just want to be clear. 0.001% of people do not have the luxury. They have other things in their lives. They have businesses. They have other income streams. They're producing their own projects. So what I think people need to stop doing is saying, oh, how can I act and produce in something? Well, you have to learn how to act and do other shit at the same time.
Well, this was my point about organization, accountability, leadership, discipline.
And so exactly. And so what I would say is when it comes to what better environment, even if it's a reading at Pearl Studios with no audience, just you, but like you've organized it. You've had to worry about getting everybody there. You've had to worry everybody finds the room, and then you have to go, and maybe I specifically want to work on my emotional availability when I act, whatever. No better acting class, there's no fucking stakes. There is no fucking stakes. You're paying
It's so true.
ultimately somebody. There's no stakes. When you produce something, no matter how small it is, there is stakes.
Yeah.
There are
right.
fucking stakes.
Yeah, especially with other people involved. Now I want to talk about what I think a lot of people are probably all, because I hope we made our case as to why it lifts up all those elements. But let's talk
and if
about.
we did it, then you're a fucking idiot.
Let's talk about why self-producing is hard. Because this is where people go to all these things that we're going to talk about that we think could be symptomatic or emblematic, rather, of what is stopping you. And I want to start. I added this based off of what you said. But who am I? But who am I to do that? Why would anybody listen to me? Without the credits that we seem to seek, that outside validation, who am I?
Who am I to make a Miss Congeniality the musical? Who am I to like approach writers and try and make a fucking television show? Who am I to do any of that?
And if that's how you're thinking, if this is this tiny little sliver of your approach to how you're thinking and considering, we sense that, by the way. We feel that. We feel how small you think you are. And I don't mean that in a really pejorative, mean way either. I'm just being honest, because you cannot approach any business that way, let alone a creative business. It's not like you have to walk around swinging the biggest dick in the world, but you do need to sort of give us, BDE in some sense.
This is the hardest moment to be a working actor. And I say that because, you need to be, in my opinion, everybody needs to be aiming, like you said, for whatever, the moon. We need to be taking these big swings, and fuck what other people think.
Truly. Because
if you're trying to stay in your lane and all I want is this, then frankly, I don't think you're going to put out the output necessary to survive. That's my opinion.
Period.
You're just not gonna make the moves needed to even get by. It's so hard. So that is, and let's talk about the next thing, which is a lack of funds, which is really real, and this is the number one thing I would say, probably above all things. So there's two elements to this, right? The first element is, you can, again, I think what's beneficial about this, okay, well then how do you build a circle of financial backers? Right. How are you, saying, okay, well, how am I going to literally get people to part with their money, even from if it's a nonprofit?
And not just for that one short film. Mike, to underline the point, Mike said circle of financial backers. How do you have available resources for the rest of your creative career? And how do you build that base of support? I'm sure we'll talk about fundraising to a whole other episode on tour.
Well, and it's like, it's a thing, even doing, the Bedlam is, has an operating budget of, a few $1 million, I, believe. They do well. It's like donors come to rehearsal.
Yes.
Of course, and they watch, and it's like, yes, you balance, yes. Eric has to direct, and then he has to also,
This is, and you know what? I'm actually realizing this because I was talking about Cape Fear, how I love this little theater in North Carolina. I'm realizing I think this is partially where I got this perspective early on, which was, well, it's not just about like, oh, my art. I want to do this, so you have to support it. Well, what about the people who are paying for it? You're right. If these people are paying y'all to do Arcadia, they're really the boss, to be clear. So what do they get out? What do they get out of? Yeah, 45 minutes watching you talk about algae gugaba. You know, that's exciting to them.
And you know, and again, the privilege, and this comes up a lot, but the privilege of people going, I just act.
Yeah.
Listen, I really believe very few people, you know, maybe I'm wrong about this. And yes, there are people who get by without having to, but it's, if you're listening to this podcast, that's probably not you. That's 1% of people can truly just be actors.
Yeah.
Truly just be. So yes, you have to learn how to have donors in the room and to cultivate them. And while also trying to make your art. Yes.
The other thing I want to say about lack of funds is that, yes, to fundraising and financial backers, absolutely. There's also just, look, most artists have a hard time parting with their money, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a big project per se to self-produce. The readings you did on Zoom that we were talking about cost you $0, or maybe you paid them a small stipend, I don't know.
Zero.
But either way, a lack of funds does not need to be the reason, even though we understand that that it can be difficult. I do think
start small.
I do think this next one is huge. Unreliable collaborators.
It hurts, you know, and this is why this hurts a bit, you know, is because I really believe at the end of the day, and look, what's hard is sometimes a lot of times I'm an unreliable
We all are in various ways.
And you know, it's, to me, and you know, I have a client who's, you know, with their web series, and it's actually doing very well. It's, you know, she basically had to take on the whole thing by herself. Yeah. And, you know, it's like, what's hard is that, and look, again, guilty as charged a lot of times. It's easy to talk a big game, but but it's very hard when people want to show up and actually do the work. And it's very, you know, this is one of the things that bothers me about just our culture in general right now is most people, you know, because there's all this shit about institutions and power and whatever the fuck. It's like, and it's easy for people to sit on the sidelines who haven't built anything in their lives and point and criticize.
Absolutely.
And it's very easy to do that. And you know, the thing is, I'll say about the unreliable collaborators is, it's hard to find. You may be very creatively aligned with people, but you're not business aligned business-wise, because maybe if you're smart, you're thinking longer term about these things. You're thinking about sustainability, and people just, no. People don't want the responsibility. People just want to, look, I'm not saying that go ahead and make the shit in your room, whatever the fuck. Make the shit in the backyard. But you know, life is short, and we need to be really, at the same time, balancing creative expression with how am I going to do this forever? So what infrastructure am I building? And most people do not want to have those kinds of conversations. They don't want to live in reality. And so it is important that, you know, you find it's hard to find people who are not only creatively aligned with you, but are also aligned with you in terms of strategy and business. And
work ethic. I mean, that's part of what I'm saying. Is that you know, and you know what, Mike? I'll say something personal. I think I've said this to you before. A lot of times in self-produced situations with other people, I've often felt like I was sort of like the school marm in the process, because along with the creative shit is the how do we get this done, and adding
the creative shit's easy.
The creative shit is easy.
I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
Is easy.
Yes, whatever. Oh, I'm really struggling with the writing and the It's like at the end of the day, isn't that fun? That's what the fuck we're doing.
Well,
it's like, I don't
actually,
care how deep you're going.
But I actually think that, and I'm gonna lump all these next ones together. I'm gonna lump these next 4 together so we can just break them down, because I think because this is where I will say, in terms of why self-producing is hard: lack of vision, potentially, lack of creativity, lack of clarity as to what your point of view is, what you're trying to do, and one that you've been introducing a lot: lack of radical ownership. I bring these all together because creativity is easy, and you know what? Maybe for some people it isn't easy, actually, because they might lack some of these things. I'm not trying to vilify anyone, but self-producing is hard if you lack vision, if you lack creativity, if you lack a sense of clarity as to what you have to offer,
Right.
and you lack radical ownership. It's going to be very challenging to take on projects that are exciting and dynamic to you.
How many people have pilots out there, or outlines, or scripts, or so many? But how many people are actually going to do what it takes to get a show produced?
No one. I mean, not really.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
No,
very few.
1%.
Yeah, exactly.
1%. I mean, that is a drastically different. There's plenty of people out there with ideas and scripts and great, but let me tell you what's not fun. What's not fun is showing up over and over and over and over again, doing shit you don't want to do, putting yourself out there.
Yep.
And I'm not talking about just trying to cultivate people, how am I going to get an EP? How am I going to get a showrunner? How am I going to raise the money? That's not fun. And a lot of times the last thing I'll say about this is that, there's a magic producer out there who's going to attach themselves. Maybe. Who's going to do all that work for me? Maybe. How are you going to find that person?
Well,
okay, let's go there. Let's go there and say there is. By the way, I know people. I hooked up and finally I'm so happy it's going. But I just want to be clear.
You hooked up with? What are you saying?
I got a woman's. Huh?
You saying you hooked up with someone?
No. Well, no. I hooked up a woman.
Oh.
A friend of mine who's a filmmaker actor, with somebody who is EPing their film and raised, I think, $250,000 or something on it. I brought them together. Been 5 years, I think. Well, not 5 years, maybe been 4 years. 4 years about. 4 years. And it's starting to go now, but you get a producer attached. Let me tell you something. That doesn't mean shit a lot of times. I'm happy that it turned out that this movie is being produced. Producers get attached to shit all the time. A producer's job is to have 50 projects going on. So that's what I mean when you're alone, is at the end of the day, nobody, and I repeat, nobody is going to give as much of a shit about your project than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and that's very lonely. And so,
but I don't say this too. The way people will come aboard to get excited is if you can provide that vision, that clarity, that radical ownership. Your point of view.
You have to.
And by the way, so as we talk through this, if there are things that are like, oh yeah, I don't really have that, or these are the things that we all of us, you and I very much included, I would argue for all artists. How do you focus on these things? Because then here's another one that what makes self-producing so hard: short-term thinking. Listen, we're instant gratification driven culture. We all want things now, yesterday. People can go, I'm thinking about, I'm not going to say who it is, but the one person that I worked with, remember that great idea for the project?
That was a great idea.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. But the idea, oh God, the work, oh God, it's gonna be so long.
I just want to know. Let me do. I'll bleep. Well, no, I won't just say. X's sort of casting workshop,
right.
And I'll just get a, or work on my head. I'll just get new headshots.
Yeah.
Like that's going. And guess what?
yeah.
And I know we're in a strike right now, but this was still like I doubt that person's going to be in a much different place in a year and a half. And imagine if they were doing that project, which was such a good idea, had a really strong marketing angle to it. You know, you're still going to need these projects in a year, 2 years, probably.
Oh, fuck. You know what? You know what this makes me... You know what? This is why I'm very proud of us. I'm very proud of you and me, because this is... You know, what we don't do is we don't cater to the bulk of what people think that they want. And I do mean think that they want. I want to be clear what I mean by that. You know, our philosophies, our processes, our thoughts on this work are not just about like, get the perfect dialed in headshot and the casting will come screaming at your doors. You know, who the fuck cares about that? We're really looking at this in the lens of what's going to make it last for the long term. And a lot of people don't like that shit, you know, and no prob. You know, but we'll
I'll
happily
never
go.
forget.
We'll vibe with the artists who are want to really do this for the rest of their lives and aren't just looking
Right.
for the quick fix that's going to get them, you know, the one co-star that'll also amount to practically nothing.
Those days are over.
I know.
The workaday actors, it's the same thing with the type. Dead.
It's dead.
Y-
But
yeah.
let's say the other thing we're saying, unreliable. You said this, Mike. You might be one of those unreliable collaborators. And what is that about? Do you have your own workflow habits that you need to focus on? Because that
Right.
probably is at the core. I want you to talk about these next two because, in terms of pressure and specifically this idea.
Well,
of
yeah.
earning it,
I mean,
because-
people are really. I think the number one, besides lack of funds, these are probably the two I hear the most. Is number one, people don't want the pressure.
Yeah.
Because there's real pressure in self-producing.
Yeah.
There's pressure. Because at the end of the day, you are the person in the arena and you are responsible. And raising the money, budgeting, you know, it's scary. Hiring the people, making sure everybody's happy. You know, how do you be? I mean, look, there are people who are terrible self-producers. They're terrible because they can't deal with the pressure because they turn on their people. They don't take care of their people because they're so fucking overwhelmed. Or they, you know, and most people are scared of producing because producing, there's a reason why when the Best Picture Oscar, the producer is the one who accepts the Oscar. It's because at the end of the day, it rests on your shoulders to get it done.
Yep.
To practically get
Yep.
it done. And it's the ultimately, and so people are just really terrified of that pressure. But this next one is interesting.
I know.
And I think this is going away more and more, but there's a feeling of wanting to earn it.
Right.
So here's what, and when I'm producing, it feels like I'm cheating.
Yeah.
Right? It feels like, oh, because I made it myself.
Yeah.
I think this is dying. But it's the sort of stupid ass, like, you know, actor culture thing where it's like, oh, people should just come to us.
Like
shouldn't have to
you're
work.
less than because
You're less than
Ryan
because you had to
Murphy
make an
didn't find you
opportunity.
on the street.
Exactly. Because I had to make an opportunity. Because I'm working to make opportunities for myself. As opposed to them just coming to me, right? Aloofness is very valued in our business. You know, being in demand and people just that is listen, it's not bullshit. That is valued. You know, people don't want to see the work.
I think the reason
Right.
this is so wild to me, by the way, is because to me this is not only so impractical, but so ego-driven. We're going to talk about ego. I think we're going to do our next episode is going to be all about ego. But this is a great example of that. Per your point, like, as though it's cheating because their creative self and work should just magically permeate and break through. It's insanity to me.
No, it's complete bullshit. And the example I always use is when people say, "Oh, I want to be bi-coastal." But I'm only going to move out to LA when I get a job.
Right.
When I book something.
Yes.
And it's like,
Yes.
make it now. You make it, but that feels like go out there and produce
I know.
something, you know, but that feels like cheating. It feels like I didn't earn it. It feels like I know, yeah, like I rigged the system. I don't know. I mean, but it's insane, but I think it does permeate. And, you know, listen, if it's working for you, great.
If what's
but
working
you know,
for
at a
you.
certain point, you have to. If sitting back and not doing
work.
and people are
Do your
coming
thing.
to you, if people are knocking down your doors, but most of us, 99% of us, people are not knocking down our doors to
Period.
come work with
Period.
us.
We-
Well, let me just say one more thing about wanting to earn it, and that's that. You know what? When you produce, yes, people will judge because you're putting yourself out there. Regardless, when you go out there and make your own work and you make your opportunities and you are a leader,
Yeah.
which is what a producer is. A producer is a leader.
Yep.
And when you lead, you open yourself up to all types of criticism in terms of all types, always. And yeah, you are all potentially inviting, a line of fire. And you know, it's real. And so this idea of, yes, when you're going out there, it's funny. It's like you see people, there is something that happens with, especially when you see like, oh, what was this? Somebody's resume, and oh, they were in this movie, and maybe you look it up and realize, no, they produced it. I won't lie. My first kind of reaction is, oh,
interesting. I just
even
don't
as
have
a producer,
that.
even as opposed to what the reaction should be, which is
funny.
Holy shit, this person produced a fucking whatever. That's amazing. I still have,
But
yes,
you love
I
Jim
still
Cummings.
Yes.
That's what
I admire these people, but I'm still, look, it's a break. It's culturally, I just want to be clear here. Even though we must do it, I think that there is something baked into the culture of making, of art making, where it's like, ultimately, at the end of the day, people come to me. But what, unfortunately, look, that's not going to happen for, like I said, most of us.
I
so
hear
what do
it.
we do? Do we sit back and do nothing?
I
No.
hear it. I'm just also offering that, to me, this is how you earn it. This is how you earn it.
100%.
And I know you said that way
what's
too.
More impressive? What's more impressive? Somebody getting cast in a fucking television show, or somebody or Issa Rae? What's more impressive?
Exactly.
Obviously Issa Rae is more impressive. Obviously.
Well, let's talk about that, Mike, because now in this final part of this, we should have done 2 parts on this episode. My God, we're already an hour and a half.
It's like an hour and a half, right?
About what it means to take on this real job of an actor. And in a lot of ways, producer first. Here's what's ironic. I would argue, we would argue probably, that this is what most people say they want. They say, I want the career of Reese Witherspoon, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Spike Lee, Issa Rae, Tom Cruise, people who are Michaela Cole, you know what I mean, who said, fuck you, Netflix, and when they want to change the show.
It's always who we see people say they want to be, is like,
exactly.
Phoebe Waller's in there, like that. Phoebe Waller's like in everybody's fucking thing.
And and Fleabag started at Edinburgh Fringe, right? I mean, well, I'm sure it might have started before that, but that was really where it sort of, she was able to push herself forward. So I say it because from a perspective shift standpoint, if this is what we say we want, what exactly does that include? No, per your point, not just a producer who's like, yes, may I write you a check for any amount so that you can. That's not necessarily what we're talking about. She probably, I don't know what that budget was at Edinburgh.
Ben Platt. I just want to talk Ben Platt. Mark Platt, I believe, I'm 90% sure, maybe I'm wrong, I think produced Dear Evan Hansen from the beginning.
I don't know for certain, but I feel confident he was heavily involved.
I don't know that I know he produced the film. He produced the feature.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But you're saying Broadway. I'm looking as we speak.
But there was the first readings, the fucking all of that. Like, and so, not all of us have fathers who are producers, but that's the same thing, isn't it? That's or have fathers. But some of us, but it's the same exact thing, right? Our job is to make creative opportunities for ourselves, and self-producing is the best way to do that. And yes, when we get to act in something, that's the cherry on top. Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. But I do think that part of what the way forward here for those of you who might be listening going, this just feels like daunting and overwhelming and not. And look, I actually appreciate when people are honest with me and they're like, I don't want to do this. I just want to act. I do think we need a mindset shift. We need a mindset shift. And I hope that in us laying out how all of these pieces could affect change for the better in your creative business, that we have made the case effectively enough that you might be interested in really exploring what that could look like for
This
you.
is how you take charge. And let me be clear. It doesn't mean that you market yourself as a producer. It doesn't mean that you say, like, I'm a producer. It doesn't mean that, you could just say, I'm an actor. But behind the scenes, your job is to produce. Yes, I would say that is fairly accurate.
And to underline a point that, and to sort of come full circle here, I think you said this earlier. If your career is not moving in the direction you want it to, if it feels behind, if it feels stalled, if you feel like your reps aren't paying enough attention, if you feel like you don't have enough of an audience, if it's not going, that is on you. But here's the beautiful thing about that. That means that you can change it. That means that if it's on you, you don't have to wait for anyone.
What would let me here's a thought exercise. And that's why I'm like, fuck me. Assume, I don't care who you're signed with. I don't care how many credits you have. Assume two things. Assume you'll never get another audition again. Just assume you'll never get another audition again. And assume that nobody will ever cast you in something again. Just as a thought experiment.
Here's what I love about that. Mike. Then you have to ask yourself, am I okay without that outside validation? And that, I think, is tough.
Yes.
Because I think for some people that goes, oh, that must mean I'm not good. And
that's exactly the earning thing too. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. 100%.
As opposed to fuck them. I know I have, and you know what I want to say. I know plenty of shitty actors, and I see plenty of shitty actors who work. But I also believe that in this industry in particular, you can find your niche. I'm thinking of that one person you work with who isn't a good actor, who we've even talked about what they needed to do was sort of pivot and tell a different story by way of either becoming more of a personality or finding a niche or self-producing something that can help tell their story effectively. If you want a career as a creative artist, specifically an actor, you can have it. You just have to understand where your market share is and potentially, carve that out yourself by way of primarily self-producing. Period.
But listen, it's a big mindset shift because I don't know about you, but when I go, okay, Mike, let's assume, because even after, I'm even thinking about next year, when the show's over. I'm like, okay, I'm excited to see what's next. There's still that part of me that's like, I'm excited to see what if I were to assume that I'm not going to get never going to get an audition.
Yes.
And I'm never going to get cast
I like
in anything. Why don't I just assume that?
I like it.
Then the first thing I go is, well, how the fuck am I going to survive?
Right.
How the fuck am I going to...
Right.
And that's the challenge.
Exactly.
That is the challenge.
Wait for
That's
no
the
one.
challenge.
Wait for no one, because self-producing is the job of an actor. Because in short, if you want something to happen, make it happen. I think we've made our case. I think we did a pretty good job.
And the last thing I'll say is, in terms of this being overwhelming, like, let me take that example. The last, just let me, because that is actually making me go, fuck, man, like, son of a bitch, like, Yeah. Well, let me just assume it's never gonna. Let me just assume that I'm never gonna. Nobody's ever gonna come to me with a job, and I'm never gonna get another audition again. Let me just assume that. Then I go, well, what am I doing? What is this all about? I'm a creative artist who wants to act. Isn't that what I want?
Right.
That is what I want. And but I can only do that contingent on other people,
Right.
then I must not really want it. Period. I just want to say, period. If the only way I do it is if other people give it to me, and that's the only way I'm going to do it, then I don't really want it. Then I do not really want it. Because I'm really not going to do
What it takes.
And I'm not talking about killing people or blowing Harvey Weinstein. I'm just saying, like,
Right.
this is not what's ethically wrong with producing your work. And some people, but remember we did that podcast, and I almost want to say the name of it because I'm so pissed. We did that podcast.
I know.
I'm
What a
pissed
joke.
about that.
Don't say the name. Don't say the name of it though.
I won't. But we did a podcast. And, it was like hi, this is a Ooby Wooby Artist podcast bullshit. And they didn't air our episode because we came
Literally,
in there and we were
wait,
like,
no,
hey.
to be clear, we were guests on the episode, and and this was during the
Gave
pandemic.
an hour and a half.
Do you remember? It was during the pandemic, and we were, hour and a half, where we basically were like, great pandemic, we got to reinvent and keep going. Now's the time. And they were like, what about the people who just need to breathe? And we were like,
and like,
no.
yo, and the one person said,
oh yes,
I'm an interpretive artist.
bitch.
I'm not a creative artist. I'm an interpretive artist.
I couldn't. I mean, anyone listening to this,
And it's
how
like,
fucking insane is that? I don't self-produce because I'm an interpretive artist. Girl, yeah. I mean,
Girl,
what the fuck?
do you want to pay a girl? Well, let me tell you something. What apps? Listen, Leo DiCaprio.
They're gonna know who they are if they listen to this episode.
Timothy Chalamet. If you have the privilege of doing that, God bless you.
Absolutely.
But don't you want to make art? Isn't that the whole fucking point? So yes, assume today, and you know what? I'm going to make a pact with you, Joshua, right today, right here and now. I'm going to assume, starting today, that I am never going to get another job again. Let me just assume that. Let me just operate from that framework. I am never going to be approached for work again. Let's just, I'm still going to obviously, I still have to maintain work and do that work to make that happen. But let me just assume I have to make it. Wait for no one.
Okay, I take that.
Let
Let
me
me
just
cut your hand open, squeeze some blood into that cup, and then it's real.
And so, but now I'm like, wow, I have a lot of fucking work to do.
Right.
I have
Right.
a lot of work to do.
Right. Again, same. I've self-produced a ton, but as I've said to you
Me too.
recently, privately, there's always more. I can lean in. I can go further. I can continue to take big swings because that's our job. Thank you, folks, for tuning in to Creative Risk and this
Wow.
episode on
This
Waiting for
episode
No
killed
One.
me. This is a hard one. It's just a lot. It blows my mind.
But it specifically lives up to what we're talking about, which is art, entrepreneurialism, and everything in between. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share and subscribe. It really is helpful for the podcast, and we think that it's important shit that we're talking about. And also, of course, make sure to follow us on socials at artists.strategy. Yeah.
And, I will say, just because we haven't been saying this, we should do it like every 5 episodes. Like, go ahead and sign up for a free consultation. If you want us, it's a very, why not? It's a very, look, I have never had anybody, maybe out of the, I don't even know how many we've given, I think we both know only one person who did not have a good experience because they were, a little overwhelmed by it.
Oh no, I had a bad one a few months ago, but that was the
no, that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But here's the thing with the free consultation. You'll get free e-learning material. You'll fill out a very personal questionnaire. I guarantee you that when you do a free consult with us, you're going to walk away and you're going to be thinking about a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
And a lot of strategies that you can take away right there and then and do. So sign up for a free consultation.
Period.
Yeah.
Period. Okay, off to do my matinee.